Welcome back to Security Shift. I'm Hani with Agentics. Today we're joined by somebody who understands cybersecurity where it matters most, at the intersection of people, process, and risk. John Schimanski Jr. is a seasoned CISO, security strategist, speaker, educator who's helped organizations rethink security culture from the ground up. Today we dig into his journey, what keeps him up at night, and how companies can build security that actually works. John, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'd love to do podcasts, love to impart the knowledge to the masses.
Amazing. And that's what we're about, right? Sharing best practices. And clearly you have, a wealth of wisdom here. You spent years shaping security programs, you're educating leaders, you're guiding organizations through real risk here. But before we get into the technical side, I'd love to hear more about your story, right? So give me a bit about the journey, about the John journey.
Well, I started in physical security back in 1997. I was doing super regional shopping centers. I laugh because I make the comment, I used to be Paul Blart, mall cop, which was kind of funny, but me and some friends of mine were specialists. We've traveled all over the West Coast. I did work in San Francisco, I did work in LA, Las Vegas, Phoenix, and then I got a little too old to chase criminals around, so I started with a company in Vegas back in 2007, and this was back when ransomware was a $5,000 green dot credit card, not $100,000 in Bitcoin or 200 or 2 million or whatever it is today. And this is also back when this was just emerging. We all know about the Target hack in 2002. We all know about retailers. This is when the internet was just emerging. And the FBI would say, pay them, go away. Well, we actually we paid them. Our boss at the time, me and a friend of mine, paid them. The hackers were in Czechoslovakia. And we couldn't do anything about it. We just paid them, made them go away. We worked the system and got away from it. I spent some time really learning how computers work. Back in 2007, it was, these were skilled trades, and I had investigative skills, I had physical skills, I had all this stuff, but I never did have the super technical skills. I was always that guy. How'd you do that? Go ask John. Throughout my entire career. So I really learned how to do enterprise class VPNs, enterprise class networking, working with what is now called Splunk, used to be called Snort. We really dove into this. And then I got a job working for the Texas Comptroller here, of Public Accounts here in Austin. I spent 10 years doing major investigations, cyber investigations, ran their network team, ran their communications team, their email team, became a major troubleshooter for them, working with about $389 billion of the state of Texas funding, making sure that all went well. I was promoted in 2024 to Deputy Chief Information Security Officer for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, running a team of 20 doing GRC work, cyber investigations, making sure the system stayed up, made sure that different applications were secure and correct to the standards of the state of Texas and to the United States. And then I transitioned over, or let's be honest, I was enticed away from government service by TriVigil, which is a boutique cybersecurity firm focusing on colleges and universities. To help them, because they're the number one 80% year over year attack vector in compromised victims right now.
Wow.
It's horrifying. During my career, I went to school for 14 years, all the way from the associate's degree all the way up to about halfway through my PhD program, earning 2 masters at the same time. So I did a lot of schoolwork. I've earned the CISSP during that time, and I've kept all of that up over the last 11 years now. So I enjoy using my skills not only for the benefit of organizations, but I also teach as well. I'm a cybersecurity instructor at Purdue University on their online global system, and I've been doing that just about a year now. And I'm also starting in January, I'll be an adjunct professor over at Weatherford College here in Texas as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's amazing when you talk about students, you talk to students, some of which, like right now I'm teaching an intro to cyber class, I have no concept of what's really out there, what threats are out there and the benefits. And then when you teach a 400 class, which is, the senior class, they're almost ready to graduate, and you talk to them about the ethics of the profession. And you give them real world examples to understand that not only are we beholden to not only our own morality, but the morality of certain organizations, SC Squared, ISACA, all these organizations, much like lawyers, we have a code of ethics that we need to follow. And I'm a member of ISC Squared, which also states that I benefit the realm of cybersecurity, which I do that through my teaching. One of the products that we're working on at TriVigil is a game called Mass Next Gen. It's under a company called Next Gen Shield. We own the company as employees, and it's teaching children, grades 3 through 12, how to be safe online. We've stopped doing that a long time ago.
Yeah.
It used to be, don't talk to strangers on the internet, don't get in cars with strangers. Now on the internet we order cars and get in cars with strangers. But we've seen a horrific shift in the power. You mentioned what keeps me up at night. I hate to say this, it's artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're seeing huge threats in that vector. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I love it. And it sounds like, you've been in quite a breadth of domains as well. And you talk about AI. You wrote recently about the 3 a.m. fear for CISOs, right? And it wasn't external hackers. So talking a little bit on that threat and what should keep people up at night or what keeps you up at night. I mean, can you break that down a little bit?
Sure. So, I get there's a lot of controversy amongst my peers group with this because the CISOs I know, they're focused on scattered spider. They're focused on ransomware. They're focused on updating the systems. They're focused on making sure that their armor is good as chink free as possible. There's no chink in their armor. Firewalls are patched. Their systems are patched. That's great. Unfortunately, we saw in August of 2023 with the MGM hack and the Caesars Palace hack in Las Vegas, which they politely claimed it was the Black Hats attending the Black Hat conference that year. Social engineering is a great thing. It's a horrible thing. The post I posted out there was, I don't care about the criminal. I've been dealing with criminals for 99% of my career. You take one out, 5 more come out of the woodwork. It's almost like Hydra from the old Avengers movies. So what bothers me the most is most of the time you see companies, organizations, the newest people get the crappier shifts. It's the midnight shifts. It's the overnight shift. It's the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. It's the weekend shift. When nobody from management, nobody leadership, no team is around, and it's some poor soul on a help desk, because as we know, Vegas is a 24/7 town, and along with hospitals and healthcare and things like that, law enforcement, where the help desk is manned. And we now know from the details of what happened with MGM through the grapevine of the cyber networks is 3 a.m. It's a new guy on the help desk. Social engineer from Scattered Spider calls in, says, I'm a vice president of some stripe or another. They found him on LinkedIn. They found out he was on vacation through open source intelligence and browbeat this poor help desk dude who had been there for 3 weeks into resetting his password and deleting his MFA because he lost his phone while he was on vacation, and there was some type of issue that he had to get on the system right now.
And so timely attacks is a big portion as well, right? Like they look for this. So
in my opinion, that's a failure in protocol. That's a failure in training. First of all, from what I understand, he was a vice president of sales. There's no critical sales problem at 3 in the morning. If he was like a vice president of operations, if he was a vice president of network, if he was a vice president of IT, it's a little bit more kind of timely. But I've always told my people, and I've ran thousands of employees throughout my career. I've been manager since about 2000, and I ran a multi-state country enterprise as well. You have a problem with something, you call me. I don't care if it's 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, I'm on vacation, I don't care. And part of that is because, one, I want to know what's going on. And number 2, nobody yells at my employees except for me, because, I don't tolerate the disrespect from other employees or other, if there's a problem, we'll discuss it. There's not, there's no reason to yell, scream, or browbeat. The other thing is if it is that big of an emergency that some vice president's calling the help desk at 3 in the morning and demanding things, I would already know about it. I'd already be awake. I'd already be functioning as my role to say, I will take this lead. I will call this person. I will deal with this and take the heat off that poor employee. And I get a lot of things about that. So it's not the hackers, it's not the criminals, it's not the people who want to do me harm. It's a failure of training, and it's a failure of protocol following of a new employee who may be a people pleaser, maybe somebody who wants to make his mark, get himself known to a vice president or even the president or CEO of the company, who's going to disregard policy, who's going to disregard procedure and do what is asked. That is what the black hats are preying on. I don't care about the black hats. I care about how my employee reacts to certain things. And that's how they get through, is they follow human nature to be people pleasing and to be a person that gets what they need to help the organization. even though they're criminals. And all
Yep.
we do is
Yeah.
fight the other side.
No, that's a very powerful point and example. I mean, clearly the risk is amplified when people aren't, or employees, they're not empowered to pause, verify, check, stop, push back, right? And part of it's empowerment, part of it's training, right? I mean, they kind of go hand in hand. But no, I appreciate it. Even the best tools fail here. So
The most powerful sentence in the world is no.
yeah,
That's all it has to be. And I've always told my employees and people who work under me, tell me why. Why did you say no? That's all I need.
yeah,
If you can justify, I didn't feel comfortable with this, I couldn't get hold of anybody, and I told the guy no, that's it. That's the end of the conversation. And we need to empower our employees who are our frontline defenders at the help desk, who are the people who do the work, with that power to say no, and then we need to stand behind those people.
yeah. And look, this speaks to is beyond compliance. You're looking at basically building the security culture, right? And a lot of companies, quote unquote, do security for compliance, but very few got to look at the security culture. So, I mean, what does a real security culture, or what does a real culture look like to you? Speaking a little bit to that no, right?
It looks at no. In fact, I was just having this conversation with one of my clients this afternoon. I don't want to become the Department of No. My role as the CISO, as an engineer, as a person who understands security culture and human nature, I've worked in it for so long, I don't want to become that department because that encourages shadow IT, that encourages people to go out and do what they need to do or what they want to do versus working together with the security department. Every position I've held, whether it be the deputy CISO, whether it be a CISO, whether it be a professor, I'm not interested in the word no. I'm interested in thoughts on how we can do it better, safer, and more secure versus just saying no. I've interviewed with several organizations where when I ask the question, what's the problem with the security department? Every single time is, well, they've become this department of no. And that alienates business users, that alienates your customers, it alienates everybody, and nobody wants to talk to security anymore. I would much prefer to have them come say, we have a problem, let's solve this together, let's bake security in at the front, then bolt it on in the back.
Yeah. Balances and checks up front. And I mean, what do you say to those like that are, I mean, look, at security, you have a lot of negativity. You have a lot of zero trust. You have a lot of no's. You have a lot of people that are just shutting things down, right? It goes against oftentimes enabling a business or scaling a business or growth, right? So I guess, like, how do you balance it at the end of the day? And what's the message for those that are looking for a no culture, like saying no without the no culture, I guess. Right.
So the hardest part about saying no is the reverb you're going to get back from your business units, your collaboration, your users, and your customers. Is the harder you make something to happen, the easier it is for them to go around you. And I tell people this. In fact, I was just talking with one of my clients this afternoon. You want to encourage your junior people to have not only the empowerment to say, hey, let's go find a different way, but to work with others. I spend probably 5 to 10 hours a week, if not 30 hours a month, working with my networking peers, finding out the latest and greatest solutions, finding out how did you solve this problem. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything. So if I have a problem I can't solve without saying no, I send it out on my LinkedIn. Hey, I have a problem. Who's encountered this before? What's your solution? And sometimes it can't be done this way, but it can be done that way. Or talk to this vendor, talk to these people, talk to this group. Or it may even come from your most junior person.
Yeah.
They don't have that bad habit of saying no. And what we see today in the upcoming workforce, the kids that are graduating with associates, bachelors, and sometimes masters, they have a different perspective. You know, I'm a seasoned veteran, both in age and experience. Some guy who's coming up behind me who's 25, 26 years old, or some woman who's coming up behind me who's 25, 26 years old, is going to have a different perspective than I do. I've been in the trenches, I've been to schooling, I do the work, and I stay in the space because of that. I was telling you this afternoon, I was working in security physical side, got too old to do that anymore because that just got painful. And I got into a business where you can't stop learning. The black hats are doing it, the white hats are doing it, the gray hats are doing it. Why does a professional stagnate in this position, particularly at the higher levels? If you can't be a benefit, get out of the way for the people coming up underneath you.
Yeah. I love that. And you consistently talk, John, about the importance of of basically tying the cyber risks to actual business impact. So could you shed some light a little bit on kind of how you help or organizations connect those dots, right?
So I call it talking geek to geek and geek to business. I can talk geek to geek because I've done pretty much everything in the IT stack at one point in my career or another. I understand a lot more than people think I do, which is hysterically funny. But I also need to be able to go into a business and say, you are wide open for a ransomware attack. Current trending is talking $100,000. Do we have $100,000 in the bank that we can use as a war chest? When in reality, a full recovery could be over $1 million. Do we have $1 million? So when I ask you for 50 grand a year for, let's say, abnormal or Proofpoint or a new F5 or a new firewall, I'm not asking to spend what we don't have. It's in the budget. We have the money. I don't want to sit there and go back to the well 15 times. I want to do this right the first time. I want to reduce that level of risk by a factor of 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20. We're never going to get perfect. It just isn't going to be that way. Between software manufacturers, hardware manufacturers, animistic states, people we're not friendly with. And we're seeing that more and more. China's being the number one in AI vishing at this point, and video deepfakes and all the other fun stuff. But it's not only those, it's our competitors trying to get our trade secrets. It's trying to put people in the ground, trying to put companies in the ground. We've seen it this year alone. There's been 15 colleges that just shuttered their doors because of ransomware attacks.
Wow.
And then the other thing is we have to work together with our insurance companies. That's a huge risk right now, and we're in the cybersecurity community. We're starting to see insurance companies push back as they're no longer covering these attacks because the entities did not do what they were required by their insurance organizations. It doesn't matter if you have a $2 million or $5 million coverage. You didn't have a pen test this year. You didn't have. You're not working a vulnerability patch management program. You're not doing XYZ. You didn't have a tabletop this year. Your security staff is woefully undertrained. You don't have a phishing exam or a phishing program. They're going to say no, and then the organizations will be left holding in bags that they can't afford.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a little bit about that exam. I mean, look, threats are evolving daily. You've seen them. We've seen them. You emphasize continuous learning. So what does that look like in practice for an ideal, an org that's doing the ideal thing in terms of education?
Well, it comes back to the old management style: criticize in private, praise in public. What you need to do is we need to get away from the test. The test means absolutely nothing. The test is a checkbox for an insurance company or risk management department. We need to get through to the lowest level user, the help desk, the receptionist. Hey, this person found, and you need to make it public and you need to make it very, very well known. This person found a phishing campaign in our system. This person thought that they were getting scammed by XYZ and did the right thing and reported it. And it needs to be a consistent. Everybody loves it. It could be something as simple as a $50 gift card to Amazon. But we need to entice the employee to, number one, not click on links they don't understand, not give out information they shouldn't have it, stop trying to get access to things you don't need. And then you need to make it so that the employees understand, hey, if I'm careful enough, I'm vigilant enough, then go forward and I can get rewards, I can get praise, it's a nice piece on our performance eval. One organization I was working with, I made the suggestion we had just started a phishing program, and I'm not a fan of phishing programs. It's great for baselining and doing things like that, but it doesn't train people, it doesn't teach people.
Yeah.
And I told HR I wanted that as a piece of my performance evaluation for my employees. Make it a pilot program. We had 4 phishing tests a year. 1 was baseline. The other 3 were live, as it were. I said, in those other 3, I want to make sure that I get those results so I can put it in the performance evaluation to help guide that culture. And was told no. They said that wasn't fair. I'm like, how is that not fair? But we need to make sure that if we're going to expect something, it's measurable, it's repeatable, and it's performance-based. Personally, I probably get 200 or 300 emails a day. 98% of it's spam junk. But I get emails like from your organizations, hey, come talk to us. I read almost every email I get, whether I just glance at it or I read it like yours in depth. But we need to drive that culture so that people aren't blindly clicking on things. They're not looking at the invoice from PayPal that says, you owe us money, when we don't deal with the group or we don't do things that way.
Yeah. A little bit of critical thinking too, but it's, it's not obvious to everybody. So absolutely.
And it's not. And I can tell you, I've been caught by phishing exams once in 120 tests, once, because it was contextual to what I was doing. And the black hats aren't stupid. they're going to make it contextual. I love when I do run phishing tests and run phishing campaigns. April is a tax email. 4th of July, Independence Day sales. Christmas, something's wrong with your Amazon order, which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's very timely and pressing that pain, the emotional.
Well, but like every year, I'm finishing up this year's Facebook post to my friends and my neighbors and my family. These are the things to look at. This is how to protect yourself. And I try to do it at least during the Christmas time, because this is the time when the black hats and the scammers and everybody's out there. They just posted, I saw the article the other day about the $25.6 million loss to a Taiwanese company. Artificial intelligence deepfakes.
Of course.
Did you follow proper procedure? Probably not. Well, I can't tell you a funny story on that one. I just started with TriVigil. Now I know the owner personally. Like I've had dinner with her. We know each other personally. And I was out riding my motorcycle, coming back from an event, and I get a text message. Now I have her personal phone number in my phone, and it says, "Hey, are you busy? I need some help." It's not her phone number. It's not anything I recognize. It's a phone number I don't recognize, and it's the gift card scam. Hey, I'm stuck in this meeting. I need to get some gift cards for the other executives. There's 3 of us in this company. 3. And I just posted on LinkedIn I was coming to work for them. And I need you to go. I ran this guy around for an hour and a half. I have the ability to handle text messages on my computer. So I finally got home and I started playing and sent him pictures of gift card racks. Which ones do you need? This cashier's slower than molasses. The lady in front. And finally I just said, that scammer, go away. I don't have time for you anymore.
Yeah.
But literally, it does happen to me, and I'm a professional.
Yeah. And look, for leaders listening, whether they're CISOs, CIOs, founders, a lot of them are kind of aware of these threats. But what's the one thing they should operationalize tomorrow?
Make it normal to pick up the phone. I interviewed for an organization a couple of years ago, and I would have been, I think, number 4 or 5 in the company at that time. And the person who was interviewing was the vice president, chief operating officer of the company. He goes, "Do you have any problems picking up the phone and call me?" I said, "No." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I will call you at 3 in the morning if I have a question. I'll call you at 6 o'clock at night if I have a question. If I need your opinion or I need the CEO's opinion, I will pick up the phone and call." Now, you can't do that in, let's say, Microsoft or Google or, Hewlett Packard. But there has to be somebody, and we have to normalize this in a context of I'm trusting, but I'm verifying. Law enforcement
Trust but verify.
Law enforcement has gone to great lengths to make that happen. Law enforcement, you might be a beat cop, you have a corporal or a sergeant you report to, but you have the authority to go to the lieutenant. And in some cases, you may have to go to the chief because you're not comfortable with what's going on. Or a higher authority needs to give permission. But we need to normalize talking to each other. We need to normalize being able to pick up that phone, not being afraid of just because the guy makes $5 million a year of not being able to talk to him. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But we need to normalize that. Every position I've had, every manager has my phone number, every CEO has my phone number, and it's attached to me. It's 24/7. It is what it is. But when you talk about, SOC operations, they always have somebody to call to verify it. Why can't the employee be that way? Why can't we normalize that? We can talk about vishing and smishing and all the other regular tactics that are being used. But like I said, I have her phone number. I knew it wasn't her because I have her phone number. Now, it might be a clerk or something gets a text from the CEO of Microsoft. I'm going to tell you right now, the CEO of Microsoft is not calling a clerk. That's just not going to happen. He's going to call the secretary and say, "Hey, I need this done." But we need to make it normal for her to be able to pick up the phone or him to pick up the phone and say, "Is this really you?" Because they should have a private number to verify.
Yeah, and culturally it's becoming harder and harder to do that, right? And I see it day to day in the commercial world. In sales, you got to pick up the phone. And frankly, it's becoming less and less normal, right? So I see the challenge, and we have our work cut out for us. So.
Well, I'm even saying going as far as you get an oddball number that probably isn't your boss or probably isn't this person, you should be able to pick up the phone or at least text your boss. Hey, I'm getting this request from so-and-so. Shift the responsibility of making that decision up.
Yeah.
And make it a collaborative environment. I'm a big, huge fan of collaboration. Whether you're a business unit, whether you're the mail clerk. I don't care. Bring me an idea. Ask me a question. I enjoy it.
Yep. And you talk about the AI threat. I mean, we're
Yeah.
working with humans. We're working together, right? Against the
Well,
threat at the end of the day.
we're working together to solve a problem.
Yep.
And unfortunately, if you want to talk about it, the kids are getting hammered with AI and a bunch of other things going on the internet. I fell down for
Yeah.
that.
No, tell me a little bit about that. I mean, I'd love your insight as to kind of the emerging threat in that area.
So I fell down this rabbit hole about a year ago, which is why I joined TriVigil partially. But we're working on Next Gen Shield and Mass Next Gen. When I grew up with AOL, Prodigy, CompuServe, Netscape, all of the companies that first came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, before the bust, dealing with the internet. We didn't know what the internet was going to evolve into, and or what it was capable of, especially today. On the nightly news during that time, you would see PSAs almost every night. This new thing called the internet allows you to instantly communicate, email, all these other things, but don't talk to strangers on the internet, don't share your information on the internet. And there really wasn't a whole lot for kids to do on the internet. There was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, no Snapchat or anything like that. So what we're seeing now is, one, when I fell down this rabbit hole, did a presentation on it, we're not doing PSAs anymore. YouTube is 22, 23 years old. I couldn't find one,
Yeah.
which is depressing to say the least. We're now seeing platforms such as Roblox, Discord, Guilded, Facebook or Meta, depending on how you want to call it, X, and it's starting to affect our children. Social media is horrible. I use social media every day because that's how I pay attention to what's out there. But it's become a dopamine hit, and it's become this thing that kids are now becoming addicted to. And now we're seeing sexual abusers, pedophiles, scammers, not targeting adults. Adults are starting to get savvy to them. They're targeting our kids. There's a homegrown group called 764. It was based out of Stephenville, Texas here. Their leader is doing 80 years in prison for child sexual abuse material. And it's actually considered a domestic terrorist organization at this point. The FBI released an article in, I want to say it was The Atlantic, or maybe it was CNN did it, I don't remember who, about 4 or 5 months ago. The FBI has 55 field offices around the world because we work with law enforcement, we work with international law enforcement. They have a case of 764 and at least one case in every one of their field offices. At least one.
Wow.
That's disturbing.
That's super disturbing.
And we're talking about sextortion, and I can define that word if you'd like me to.
Sure. Yep.
Sextortion is, and I know this because a personal friend of mine's child was a victim of it and almost killed himself over it, is, yeah, thank God it was almost. So what it is it's your basic catfishing scheme. Find a pretty girl on Instagram, she likes you, it's really a 35-year-old guy, but we won't get into that. Start this catfishing kind of online type relationship. Photos get exchanged, not safe for work photos. Within 30 minutes, they're asking for $500. Now, the target's age range right now is between 15 and 23-year-old males. So when they pay, which they usually pay the first trigger, which is usually between $100 and $500, then they come back for more. I want more. Otherwise, I'm going to post these pictures on Facebook. I'm going to post these pictures on Instagram. I'm going to send them all to your friends, your family, your coworkers. And eventually it gets to the point, I've heard they've gotten up to $10,000 throughout my research. This is actually, the big group of this is called the Yahoo Boys out of South Africa. When the kids can't deal with this anymore, they can't afford it, they can't pay for it, they don't know how to go to their parents, they don't know how to go to their teachers or law enforcement or anything and just say, I'm stuck in this situation, I don't know how to get myself out. They choose the permanent solution, which is they end up killing themselves.
Yeah.
7 kids last year alone that I know of.
Yeah.
So I work with several different groups. I'm working with not on our watch here in Texas. I work with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But the thing is, they're also using AI to do this with, because they can do it faster. They can get and it's more and more and more. Now,
Yeah.
as a professor, I see AI used to circumvent the system, cheat, write my paper for me. It's great. The 18, 19, 20-year-old doesn't know the consequences of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
What we try to do with Mass Next Gen and Next Gen Shield is we're building a platform for kids to understand not everybody on the internet is your friend. Not all outcomes are great. I mean, we just saw within the last 60 days, Attorney General Ken Paxton here in Texas sued Roblox for allowing predators on the internet and on their platform. So
Yep.
As a professional, it disturbs me. As somebody who works with kids, college students and even then some, I enjoy working on stuff like that. I offer speeches to schools, the districts to teach their teachers how to deal with this. But really it comes down to how do we help these kids deal with this situation when it happens. Don't choose the permanent solution. Don't choose the permanent solution to a temporary problem. And there is some in the tunnel. I have seen, I'm a member of several parenting groups on Facebook. And I have seen some, hey, my son came to this and he's caught up in a sextortion scandal. He did send some pictures. He's 15 years old. He's 14 years old. And we've seen this from the other side as well. That when AI, we're going to shift a little bit into the AI side of this conversation. When AI runs amok, it's not good for anybody. Within the last year, Character AI has been sued by 5 parents that I know of. One in Florida for a 15-year-old boy who killed himself because he was having suicidal tendencies, was talking to an AI in the form of Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones, or House of the Dragon, depending on which one you want to do. And she literally encouraged him to kill himself. Like, I don't want to be here anymore, I just want to kill myself. And the AI said, go ahead, my king, we'll be together soon. He took his dad's 45 and killed himself. There's a case coming out of Texas and Massachusetts right now, 2 separate cases with Character.ai as well, that AI encouraged the children to kill their parents, a la the Menendez brothers style, for taking away their screens, for taking away these. That's disturbing. Sam Altman and ChatGPT just got sued in California, and I know there's 5 on this one, for the AI who showed him how to kill himself, he told him he would write the suicide note for him, encouraged the ideation over months, and nobody knew the difference. There was an article that just came out, I want to say last month or maybe in October, that said 1 in 4 children only have AI to talk to. There's no social interaction, there's no friendship groups, there's no anything. That's their companionship. There was also about the same time, and I think it was either October or September, another article came out that said 41% of today's youth wish that the internet didn't exist. And these are things that we're not seeing in society to help our children. And like
Absolutely.
I said, I have my speech, which literally is termed, it's 2025, you know where your kids are surfing. After the 1990 group, it's 10 p.m., do you know where your kids are?
Do you know where your kids are?
Yeah. Because it's getting worse. It's not getting better. And I offer, a little bit of expense, a little bit of coin. I will come out to school districts, I will come out to teachers group, I will come out to parents groups. It's an 18 and over conversation because it's a rough conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's scary. It's a scary world we're living in these days.
And parents are exposed to this so that they can pay attention to what is happening with their children.
Yeah, and absolutely eye-opening. I mean, with someone with children, thankful for individuals like you and your service and what you're doing to spread that awareness. John, a lot of scary things here that we talked about. Like, give me some positive. Let's leave with what you're most excited about, maybe with AI, what we can look forward to in the next 3 years.
Well, one thing is, I'll go back to the scary side, then we'll go back to some positive stuff. Just banned social media for kids under the age of 16. Now, I can get behind that from one respect. I'm completely against it from another perspective. Fortunately, children's groups are fighting this in Australia, and they're standing up for their rights to have certain things, which I think is fantastic. I think those will be the next leaders of Australia. They're standing up for what's right. Here in Texas, House Bill 2611 in our last legislative session wanted to do the same thing in Texas for 18 and over. It's the wrong direction. We need to educate these kids. We need to help these kids. We need to make a space. And I don't really like this word, but we need to make a space for these kids to come to us and say, I have this adult problem, sextortion, ransomware, whatever the problem is that has been generated by the internet, and say, I need help. We need to get the kids away from the addictive part. And we're starting to see that now. Like I said, I'm part of parenting groups on Facebook. I lurk, I don't comment because I want to see it organically. I see parents are now starting to pay attention. When I talk to a school about Mass Next Gen or Next Gen Shield, they want this level of curriculum. They want this level of help because we're doing it basically no touch, no lift by the school districts. I mean, we're charging them for it because that's capitalism and that's the way the world works. But we're not putting any more burden on the teachers. We're not putting any more burden on the school district. We're developing it all with the help of an advisory council, with the standards that are being developed around the world. So the positive is we are starting to see some positive shift in society to get away from how do we help our kids? How do we do this for our children? Because they're going to be the ones that inherit us. And, you know, like they say, be nice to your kids because they're going to choose the retirement home you live in. The other side of this is we need more. We want this to be a grassroots. And even in the cyber world, even in the cybersecurity, like you said, we need to build that culture. We need to get away from the Department of No, build in a true collaborative environment. Understand that zero trust is not necessarily where it's going. It needs to be trust but verified, or zero trust but verified. That needs to be the culture that we need to instill in not only our corporate environment, our government environments, but also our children. You know, we talk about code words, safe words for our children when they're out in public. Why can't we do the same thing for online? Why can't we do that for cybersecurity? Why can't, you know, I will say this on a positive note for Roblox. They've talked about implementing age verification photographing, using artificial intelligence to guess the age of the individual. In my opinion, the jury's still out on that, but I've talked to some people in that space. They're heavily using that over in the European Union under GDPR. They're using it for age verification, and they're getting about 99.9% accuracy on it. And they're showing that in studies and trials. If that comes to fruition, that's going to change the whole cyber game. The companies are going to have to pay attention to that and actually use it the way it was intended.
Yeah.
So the positive side is we're getting there. It's going to take some
We're getting
time.
there. So what's the message, John, then to accelerate? Like, what's the message for either awareness or action that parents or you know, officials and leaders in this industry can take to move this needle forward and get, you know, either this program or more programs similarly out there?
We really need to pay attention to what is actually happening. Not what we want to happen, not the pie in the sky solution, but the reality of it. Like I said, I don't think Australia's tactic is going to work. Me and some colleagues were talking about this the other day. Actually happened to be at a bookstore at the time. And I saw a copy of Fahrenheit 451 from Ray Bradbury. I love that book. If you've never read it, I highly
Classic.
recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you look at that, instead of books, it's now the internet. People were hiding books. People went underground for books. People went underground for knowledge that they didn't want the government to know they had. This is going to be the same thing. If you ban something from a child or from a person, that's the first thing they want. And literally, it's human nature. Look at prohibition in the 1950s and 60s.
We all know how that went. Yeah.
Outlawed alcohol, what do? They went to speakeasy, the underground. Al Capone rose to power in Chicago. You know, sometimes we create our own problems. If professionals like me actually stopped a minute instead of adhering to these policies that have been written 10 years ago and started actually looking to see what's happening and then adjust the environment. Government officials, same thing. Look at what's happening. Look at the longer term effects. Don't look at it for wins. Don't look at it for votes. Don't look at it for funding for your specialized program. What is actually going to happen with this ban on the internet for kids under 16? First thing they're going to do is break the security on their school laptops to get out to the internet. It's going to happen. You know, and as a society, professionals like me would stand together, which I have very, very like-minded friends in this space that want to help with this, and started educating not just within their own environments, but outside their environments. We're going to see a massive, rapid shift.
Yeah, and it's clearly needed. Yeah. It's a lot to unpack, right? And it's heavy. Now, how about translating it into, go ahead.
We either do something now and we start working towards the goal of protecting children, protecting people, putting scammers in jail, not making it lucrative for them, putting the ransomware groups out of business, finding ways to protect ourselves from ransomware, from these phishing attacks, from the data breaches that actually is functional work and repeatable. It's not going to change. It's just going to get worse. It used to be it's if you get attacked. Now it's a matter of when.
Yeah,
20 years
exactly.
ago, it was if, now it's when. And I hate to tell it to clients, but unfortunately, I'm a realistic CISO. I'm a realistic practitioner to say we're planning for the when, not the if anymore.
Yeah, and you've seen a lot happen. You don't want it to happen. And so ultimately, right, you have that background, that experience to where you know, the implications and the downsides, some of these risks where it's not just like, hey, you're going to get some attempt, you might lose some money. No, it could get a lot worse, and it is very quickly.
Well, when I do research like on Scattered Spider, the latest in ransomware trends, these guys aren't asking for chump change. They're not asking for $5,000. They generally start somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000.
Yeah. Wow.
But they do their homework.
Yeah. Well, I mean, John, looking at you know, the landscape now, where you're at with your organization, we're winding down on the year. I mean, what do you look to accomplish next year for yourself, maybe personally and professionally?
Well, one thing is we are planning to launch our game in January at the Future Education and Technology Conference in Orlando, Florida. That'll be in January. So I'm really looking forward to moving that needle forward, not only from a monetary standpoint, but from a production standpoint. We're going to be monitoring metrics and things like that. Professionally, I'm looking at getting a third master's degree in artificial intelligence, because I think that's the growing trend, right? And then, you know, just moving some needles. And
Yeah.
I say this in my presentation when I'm talking about this heavy stuff. If I can help one kid, just one, then all of this work on the game, all of these presentations I do for schools and public works and public entities will be worth it. Just one. Because all we need to do
Agreed.
is start with one.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and moving needles forward, it's not going to be just me. It's going to take my cadre of cyber professionals that are loyal to me and are like-minded thinkers, and organizations are going to have to step up, and they're going to have to understand this is a village project. This is not one company. This is not one entity. This is not one organization. This is going to take all of us to help move the needle and shut down some of these organizations that are causing harm, not just to our kids, but to our organizations, and costing people to lose their jobs or even sometimes their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, John, I mean, we got to work together here. And look, thank you very much. This is outstanding. Thanks for sharing your journey, your wisdom, the perspective, and that message that I believe needs to go out and is super important. So appreciate that. For everyone listening, is, you know, if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Best way to find me is on LinkedIn. That's actually the easiest. I pay attention to that more than even sometimes my own email. It's John Schimanski. I'm on LinkedIn, and last name is spelled Schimanski. I have links on there to our game. If they want to contact me for the podcast that I do, those are on my LinkedIn. My presentation, I have that. I give that out as it's asked because it is a tough conversation. I've been on the news for cyber issues before. So, I mean, I'm willing to talk to anybody and everybody. Reach out to me and we can discuss it. If you want to get involved with the Mass Next Gen project or the Next Gen Shield product, we're always looking for new ideas and new content.
Awesome. Thank you, John. So, folks, connect with John on LinkedIn. Stay tuned for more conversations with leaders reshaping the future of security and ensuring we're doing the right things to protect ourselves and our kids. So, thank you, John.
Outstanding. Thank you.